Um, so it's been a hell of a week under der Führer, Mr. Trump. He's doing things, I guess, that supposed to help people. Now, there's a lot of breaking news right now that deserves full coverage, but there are other things that first we must go over before we get to what is pretty current and pretty shameful. So, um, first of all, we've basically invaded Venezuela. Now, most Americans kind of, if you're like me, kind of don't really follow Latin American history or Latin American things. I mean, we're isolated here in America, so um, we'll just have to deal with that. But hopefully, I'm getting coming through on my Facebook feed. I don't know. We'll see. But by invading Venezuela, we've ultimately um, pretty much punched, I'd say, China in the mouth, and that's kind of like a crazy ass thing to think. But China is all over South America. China is all over the world. They've developed railroads and become a pretty strong uh, foreign power across the globe, including ports in all around Europe, shipping lanes. Um, the Yeah. So basically, by going into Venezuela, we've created a pretty big enemy with China. China's always been kind of happy to have a dictator anywhere around the world. But anyway, yeah. So I do not know if yeah. So um, yeah, I'm kind of thinking out loud here, but let's see here. What do I do? Ah, yes, there it is. I needed a key to get this together. But anyway, so you know, China has poured in to Costa Rica, Panama, Dominican Republic, El Salvador, Nicaragua, Honduras, some $19 trillion into their economy, and it's a strategy that they've developed over 20 years, and that's because uh, is not an intrusion, but a return to balance. A late story interrupted by gunboats. By going into South America as a whole, Um, it's so different than the America's role in South America and Central America. So, we're kind of really stepping on toes by in in going into, you know, Venezuela, because a lot of that stuff has already been established by China in a peaceful manner. Now, let's do some history here, because I think, a lot of people forget about how we became a world power. And this is a real bugaboo right now for Trump, because he always hated the military and he hated democracy. He's always hated democracy ever since he was doing his beauty pageants for the KGB in Russia under Putin. So let's just, you know, think about that. And that connection is very real. But anyway, after World War II, America was handed a blank check to protect the world from fascism. That mandate was meant to uphold a baseline of global security and human rights. It was also used to build a military ostensibly designed to defend those ideals. Within 15 years, however, blank check was quietly stolen by the military and industrial capitalist complex and repurposed as a tool for profit. Human dignity was thrown to the wayside and reduced to a balance sheet thanks to capitalism. Humanity winnowed down into something to be managed, monetized, and debased. What was once a golden ticket for liberation had become a capitalist gun, now turned inward on the very humanity it was meant to protect and help flourish across the world. Today, that blank check serves the oligarchy. Over the last 40 years, it has de-evolved into exploitation of the earth and the commons, wielding a blood-covered bayonet. It has enabled governments to manipulate, cheat, lie, and manufacture misery on a scale that the fascism it was originally designed to fight could never have imagined. Am I saying that we have become a fascist world, or at least the United States has? It's a fascist oligarchy. Okay, we are. Now, let's just, now back to Venezuela. You might feel comfortable with the idea of attacking Venezuela as a detraction for Trump's base or about oil. You might think that's just a distraction from the Epstein files. But I got to tell you, it's something deeper. It's about the lowest common denominator wanting to pull you down to their level. It's about the destruction of this country. It doesn't have much to do with racism or cultural things. Racism, by the way, it's it does have something to do with racism, because racism is not going to be around if there's equal economic opportunities. But America is constantly creating, marginalized people through economics, and, creating, people of color, as a marginal group, immigrants as marginal groups. I mean, that creates rage across the board. And for the longest time, white working class people have had the high ground, and they've been, with minimal effort, were given a guarantee that they would be better off than blacks and all women. And now, after 2,000 years, to see this kind of be taken away and replaced with hopelessness, attacked as woke by the extremist Republicans, it's the cocktail in how we got here. It's the rise of fascism. And most of the things, Venezuela, and when he's talking about Greenland and he's talking about Cuba, these are geopolitical positions to control the world through fascism. It takes very little to convince a poor white guy, by the way, stripped of heinous privileges, to follow blindly a pedo gangster to the bitter end. To do anything to get back. They will do anything to get back to their foundational beliefs of judgment and hate wrapped in their Bible. Trump doesn't need any distractions for his base. They don't read and think much anymore. The issue is about the spineless Congress who refuse to offer opportunities in exchange for oligarchs filling their pockets with money earned off of economic turmoil that they allow in exchange for their role in a Kafkaesque trial. There are reasons why countries don't bomb other countries, but those reasons are not in the fascist playbook. If you try to reason out fascism, you need to recalibrate your thoughts. It's about dumb fucks doing what dumb fucks do: create fear and kill off hope. And that's exactly the goal of what Trump is and his, cabal are doing. They're trying to make Americans fall apart and lose hope. But, we were handed that blank check after World War II. And, it's it's amazing what we were allowed to do. We were given a mandate for democracy because fascism was so evil. And the baseline of, holding together global stability and human rights, that's what it was all about. It was, used to build a military ostensibly to, create these things. But, as always, capitalism took over and, basically turned it into a profit machine. And, you know, can't really do that either. So let's talk about Greenland, because I want to apologize because I'm going to get better at this. I was trying to. There's so much going on, and it's so much easier for me to write this stuff because I can compose my thoughts. But being in front of a camera is somewhat nerve-wracking, to say the least. But anyway, let's talk about it. It's another geopolitical play, Greenland. And, the mainstream media is not talking about how close it is to Tokyo, Venice, Italy. Putin is a strategic point on Earth because planes can fly over the circle, fly straight down to Europe, straight down to Chicago, and basically you can control everything from Greenland. And this is old KGB stuff, and we all know that Putin is a KGB operative, and his basically through his rigging of American elections, Donald Trump is also an operative of Putin. So, just understand when Trump, whatever Trump does, he's speaking for his boss, Vladimir Putin, end of. If you don't believe that and you're still hanging on the threads of democracy, you're making a big mistake here. One of the things back during the old Soviet Union, when we were, working to secure democracy and capitalism over communism of the Soviet Union, America would allow, other countries and defend other countries against communism. That was a big deal. And military only not because they didn't think that they couldn't beat America by dropping bombs and taking out soldiers. The reason that they didn't attack America is because of the gun laws in America and how Americans were really armed. Individual Americans and the crazies out there buying guns, they were there to protect this country from outside invaders, namely Russia too. So Russia never really could figure out how to do it until Putin came along, former KGB agent, and said, well, wait a minute. These gun owners aren't the brightest bulbs on the block. So can't we co opt them? Can't we somehow use the internet and the bullhorn, like, you know, Mao's China, put up some bullhorns? Oh, the internet's great. Let's do it. Can't we just pay these influencers to convince these militias that, you know, they have to do everything to support my appointed president, Donald Trump? So people like Charlie Kirk, people, all of the right wing uh, manosphere went out and started to recruit people, particularly in the militias. Now, the militias were there on January 6th, and you could make a case that the militias have won and are in power because one of the reasons, and this is part of my rant today, is that people who want to know why don't the good Republicans who support America first and traditional American values, why are they not people are all in not they are all fringe elements of on politicians. So, 20% of Congress is retiring because Christian nationalists and extremists inside America funded by Putin vis-a-vis Trump and his nonsensical, I don't even have a name for it, Trump's weave. Powerful guns to convince our government to lay down. And so now we stand around and the mainstream media loves to hang out and say, oh, wow, why? It's over. And the only way out is we will have in November, should the Democrats, which is a kind of unlikely, but should the Democrats take over Congress, they really need to somehow start to demand protection for political representatives. If anyone threatens a politician anywhere in, I mean, January 6th, those people were all pardoned and now they're all in the government roundup. They're rounding up supposed illegal immigrants all around the country, serving as ICE agents, these very criminals. And so, what we can do is we need to make sure that we protect good, because I think a lot of the should be eliminated if you could just provide these people with security in their lives, uh, penalties of law to keep them functioning. So many best interest to stay involved, and information is so easily attainable today. So Congress people, where they live, how they behave, where they move, and all of that stuff. It's a dangerous game being a politician in America today. So I'd say, when you ask the Republicans to have courage, I don't think so. I mean, doesn't take much to push them into the fear zone. I mean, a lot of their voting bloc is made up of the MAGA. And, if in doubt, say, if you need an extra 3 or 4% and a threat comes through, well, you're going to MAGA, not going to risk your life to get reelected. So that's my little bit of rant on protecting politicians, the government out of control in Greenland and Venezuela. And now that takes us to the latest story, which ICE has managed to somehow shoot an American citizen in the head in Minnesota and kill her in her car. Now, I don't know. They well properly for their own lives because the media is under threat too, as are all college professors under threat because you just can't imagine getting emails that threaten your life, threaten your family. No one wants that. No one could handle that. It would be very hard. So, yeah, let me just close by saying I'm really sorry about the start of this vlog. I'm going to get better at it, I swear. I totally hate being on camera, but yeah, so probably crashed on the video. Who knows? But I hope that you had a fun time listening to me rant. I'm going to do a little bit, or hopefully. And yeah, thanks for joining me. And to all my friends on Substack, as well as on Facebook, the technology is going to get better on my end. I'm trying to get this studio to, be a little quicker with the internet. It's dropping out on me, I think. So anyway, that's it for me. Thanks for subscribing. One of the things that I want to tell you is that the very things, and I want to mention this, and historically, the very things that democracy and our role in Europe, NATO, and the Marshall Plan, all of those things were put in place as an answer to fascism and the Nazis. And in case you've forgotten, you can go over to the cemetery in DC and see all the soldiers who've died in numerous wars. And this is one of the reasons why Putin and Trump both hate American soldiers, because these people died to stop them. And we have a massive cemetery there. If anybody wants to think about the 6 million Jews who were killed by the Nazis, that's a fact. And all of these things happen. And the reason that the United States was given carte blanche over the military and protection of Europe and protection of democracies around the world is because you can't stop fascism without a war. And this is a thing that Trump doesn't understand. So the first passive move will be to protect our politicians. And if that doesn't work, we're going to be in trouble as a nation. So anyway, that's my rant for today. Thanks for joining me. Hopefully you had a good view. That was 25 minutes on Substack. Took it too. Nice. Sorry about the stumbling in the beginning. Thanks for joining me. Please subscribe to my Substack. Most of it's free, but buy me a cup of coffee, get me, but yeah, lots of hope, lots of love to everyone out there. And yeah, I'll be back sooner than later. This is the Mind Chimes, Carl's Mind Chimes.